People loved Lucille Ball for her laughter, but very few understood how sharply she watched the world when the laughter stopped. Long before Hollywood began talking openly about toxic behavior and abuse of power, Lucille Ball had already made her own quiet list. Not written down, not shared publicly, just remembered. Faces, names, moments that never faded. She had spent decades working inside an industry where charm was currency and cruelty was often disguised as talent. And from that front row seat, she reached a conclusion that unsettled even her closest friends. Some people weren't just difficult. Some people weren't just flawed. Some people, Lucille believed, were genuinely dangerous. What made her judgment so chilling wasn't bitterness or rivalry. Lucille Ball survived Hollywood not by tearing others down, but by being reliable, prepared, and human in a system that punished women for aging and ambition alike. She had no patience for cruelty disguised as genius, and when she spoke privately about certain actresses, women the public adored, her words carried weight, because she had seen what the audience never did. Before her death, Lucille confided in friends about several actresses she believed revealed their true character only when the cameras stopped rolling. These weren't rumors she heard secondhand. These were moments she witnessed, power used casually, humiliation delivered without hesitation, kindness treated as weakness. Each name carried a story darker than the last. Joan Crawford, the glamour that hit ice. Joan Crawford terrified Lucille Ball. That admission alone startled people. To the world, Crawford was elegance incarnate, immaculately dressed, perfectly posed, an icon of old Hollywood discipline and poise. She represented control, precision, authority, but Lucille saw something else entirely. She saw cold. Lucille once said quietly to a friend, "All she has is glamour. Underneath, there's nothing but ice." It wasn't jealousy. It wasn't competition. It was recognition. Lucille believed that when someone consistently dehumanized people with less power, that behavior revealed who they truly were. The moment that cemented her judgment came in 1971, during Joan Crawford's guest appearance on Here's Lucy. From the instant Crawford arrived on set, Lucille felt the atmosphere shift. Not loudly, not dramatically, subtly, like the air tightening. Crawford issued instructions before saying hello. The studio temperature had to be exactly 68 degrees. Her chair needed to face a precise angle. The lighting had to be adjusted to emphasize her bone structure. Lucille didn't object. She understood professionalism. What she didn't understand was what followed. A young wardrobe assistant, only 22, approached Crawford with a dress. There was a tiny wrinkle, barely visible, something easily corrected. Crawford didn't ask for it to be fixed. She attacked the girl. Witnesses later recalled her voice lowering into a hiss. "You're a useless little nothing," she said. "Toilets would be lucky to have you." The girl froze, then fled, humiliated and crying. Crawford demanded she be fired immediately. Lucille refused. That refusal marked the beginning of something final. From that moment on, Lucille Ball privately despised Joan Crawford. When cameras rolled, Crawford transformed. Smiling, charming, gracious. But the second filming stopped, she shut down. Her warmth vanished. Her eyes went flat. Lucille later whispered, "I've worked with department store mannequins who felt more human." To Lucille, this wasn't moodiness. It was performance. Joan Crawford, she believed, didn't feel empathy naturally. She performed it when required. And anyone who treated powerless people as disposable had already failed the most basic moral test. Crawford remained, in Lucille's mind, the clearest example of cruelty dressed as class. A woman who mastered the art of appearing human without ever truly being so. Judy Garland. The chaos that left wreckage. Lucille Ball never spoke about Judy Garland with hatred. She spoke with exhaustion. When Garland's name came up, Lucille's face didn't harden, it fell. Her disappointment was heavier than anger. Because Judy's darkness wasn't born of malice. It came from something far more tragic and far more destructive, unchecked chaos. Lucille had known Judy since their MGM days. She admired her voice, her vulnerability, her brilliance. Judy Garland was magic, but magic, Lucille believed, was only beautiful when it didn't burn everything around it to the ground. Behind the scenes, Lucille saw the pattern repeat again and again. Sets delayed, crews waiting, schedules destroyed, Judy arriving late, unsteady, apologetic, radiant, then delivering brilliance so undeniable it made everyone forgive her, until forgiveness became impossible. One story haunted Lucille long after she heard it. A television director in 1970s described a shoot scheduled for 5 in the morning. The full crew arrived on time. Lighting, camera, makeup, everyone waited. Hours passed. Judy Garland arrived at 2 in the afternoon. She apologized sweetly, then delivered 30 flawless minutes that reminded everyone why she was a star. And then she left. She said she was too tired to continue. The production went over budget. The next morning, 3 crew members were fired. Not stars, not executives, crew members with families and rent and no safety net. That was the moment Lucille stopped excusing Judy Garland. Her anger wasn't moral superiority. Lucille had survived the same industry without imploding. She believed responsibility mattered. Watching Judy squander her gift while innocent people paid the price felt unforgivable. She once said bluntly, "Talent doesn't excuse destruction." Lucille never confronted Judy publicly. She simply avoided working with her again. When Garland died in 1969, Lucille mourned the brilliance, but not the chaos. In her eyes, Judy Garland wasn't evil in intent, but the damage she caused was real, lasting, and devastating. Ava Gardner, beauty that enjoyed the hurt. Ava Gardner unsettled Lucille Ball in a way few people ever did. Because Ava, Lucille believed, enjoyed cruelty. Their conflict didn't start with competition or misunderstanding. It began with Lucille witnessing Ava target people she believed were beneath her. Not once, repeatedly. One afternoon in the mid-1960s at an MGM wardrobe fitting, Lucille watched a young assistant present Ava with a freshly steamed dress. A seam had softened slightly from oversteaming. Barely noticeable. Ava stared at the girl. Then she said, slowly and deliberately, "Don't bother fixing it. You can't fix incompetence with more incompetence." The girl stood frozen, humiliated. Lucille felt something tighten in her chest. This wasn't diva behavior. This wasn't stress. This was pleasure taken in domination. Later, Lucille said, "Ava didn't make mistakes. She made victims." The tension worsened over time. At an industry cocktail party, someone mentioned Lucille's name casually. Ava smirked and said loudly, "Oh, the washed-up clown. She's still working." The room went silent. Ava didn't care. Lucille believed Ava's beauty shielded her from consequences. If she hadn't been beautiful, Lucille once said, no one would have tolerated who she really was. They never reconciled. Ava aged into legend. Lucille's memory of her aged into disgust. And whenever Ava's name appeared years later, Lucille would mutter the same sentence under her breath. People have no idea what she was behind the face. Betty Davis, talent used like a weapon. Lucille Ball respected talent deeply. That's why Betty Davis disturbed her so profoundly. Their worst encounter happened at an industry dinner in the mid-1960s. Lucille was seated only a few tables away when Betty Davis began berating a young waiter who had brought the wrong wine. The boy apologized over and over. Bet didn't stop. "Do you even know how to read a label?" she snapped. "Or is that beyond you?" The room fell silent. Lucille watched as Bet continued, savoring the humiliation like a performance. Later that night, Bet noticed Lucille watching and raised her glass in mock friendliness. Lucille didn't return the gesture. She later said Crawford was cold. Bet enjoyed inflicting the wound. To Lucille, that distinction mattered. She believed greatness should protect people, not crush them. Anyone who used their power to humiliate those trying to survive in the same industry had already failed. They were never friends. They shared the same era, the same circles, but avoided each other completely. Even decades later, Lucille declined joint appearances. Her judgment never softened. Zsa Zsa Gabor, the smiling fraud, When Zsa Gabor's name came up, Lucille didn't frown. She laughed, not because she found her amusing, but because she found her transparent. Lucille despised fraudulence more than open cruelty. To her, fake kindness was more dangerous than obvious malice. It disarmed people. It fooled them. Lucille's disgust began at a charity event in the late 1960s. Zsa arrived draped in diamonds, smiling as cameras flashed. The moment photographers left, she snapped at a volunteer, guiding her to a table. "I don't sit with peasants." Lucille witnessed it from across the room. Moments later, a young volunteer brushed Zsa's coat accidentally. Zsa leaned in and whispered sweetly, "Touch my coat again, sweetheart, and I'll make sure you never work an event in this town again." Lucille felt sick. "Nothing about her is real," she later said. Not the accent, not the elegance, not even the kindness. When Zsa later slapped a Beverly Hills police officer in 1989, Lucille wasn't surprised. She simply said, "There she is, the real one." Lucille Ball didn't believe Hollywood created evil people. She believed it revealed them. Power, she understood, doesn't change character. It exposes it. And in her long career, she saw too many people use charm as camouflage and talent as an excuse. Now that you've heard the names Lucille Ball never forgot, which one shocked you the most? And do you think Hollywood still hides people like this today? The conversation is far from over.